my name is Linda Kaiser. Welcome to The Circle. Our panelists, our normal panelists are here tonight, Shelley Evans, Catherine Harris, and Mary Beth Ward. And Mary Beth, our traveling grandmother, went to a gathering in Washington, D.C. yesterday called the 1000 Goddesses Gathering. And the invitation to it said, a wisdom and compassion gathering to invoke the divine feminine. There is a Tibetan myth that when 1000 goddesses gather, the divine feminine will rebirth through their combined energies. Great Mother is calling, and she is providing a visioning wall for our dreams, a forgiveness wall for healing, a joy wall for our gratitude, a keening wall for our sorrow, chocolate for our hearts, music and dancing for our souls. So the sisters met at the Washington Monument to focus on healing, did ceremony near the White House to focus on wisdom, ceremony directed at the Pentagon to focus on peace, drumming circles, and subtle activism to focus on compassion. So Mary Beth, Grandmother Mary Beth, tell us about the goddess meeting, please.
Yeah, it was a really beautiful day. It was a gathering of women of all ages. There was young girls there, and there was older women there, and it was just a beautiful, peaceful, airy kind of a day. The breeze was like really blowing, which, you know, it felt like kind of blowing out and clearing out the old and maybe bringing in the new. And the day began with Elizabeth Kucinich. She's the wife of Dennis Kucinich, and she is an advocate for businesses who are, you know, making a difference in the world. And she wants businesses to become alive and to become aware of, you know, the benefits that they should be bringing to society and our environment and, you know, justice and all of that. So she had a really beautiful message. And she also believes that it's the time of the divine feminine rising, and that we need to use our voices and our wisdom and our knowledge and our nurturing to balance things again on the planet. You know, the masculine has been here for a long time, and the masculine is here representing the fire and taking care of the fire, but they went a little too far with the fire and got into too much of the weaponry and the war and the, you know, it just really has gotten out of balance. So it's time now for the feminine, all of us goddesses, to wake up and come together and talk and figure out how do we bring, you know, love and compassion and justice and peace back into all aspects of our world. And just with working with the women here in Global Mission of Peace and the discussions that we've had, you know, I know that we're already doing that. We can already envision the future that is kinder, that's gentler, that it looks, you know, I believe that women have the capacity to look at things from a bird's eye perspective, where we can look at the whole and see how actions are affecting the whole family, the whole planet. And I think that's what's needed now. So, you know, we had a beautiful invocation. We had learned several chants from around the world. There was a woman, Omeyaye, and she is an Osun priestess. She's an author. She's an Ayurvedic practitioner. She's a sacred priestess. She's traveled around the world. She's met with, you know, Tibetan leaders, and she's met with Dalai Lama, and she's been to talk at the United Nations, and she was there to share some of the wisdom. She's a 5th generation wisdom keeper in her family. And she just had beautiful, you know, very amazing insights into sacred water. And that's her journey. She travels around the planet and blesses all of the water and tries to, you know, bring its life back and its joy back and its health back. And you know, we all understand how important women are with water. We are the protectors of water, just as men were the protectors of fire. So we did a lot of water ceremonies, and they had people bring sacred water from wherever they were coming from, and they put it into a big urn to mix it together. And then everybody was invited to take that water back with them to use to bless waters in their area, or just, use it in their sacred ceremonies. So the thing that I found so interesting is, a lot of people have lived their life in sacred ceremony. I, for one, have not. I was raised in a Catholic family. So, doing those sorts of ceremony is, or has been, foreign to me. Now, over the past, 10 or 12 years, I've gotten much more involved in learning the sacred ceremonies. And it has touched me at a very deep level. There's like a knowing. And I think when the women get together and we do some of these sacred ceremonies, a whole knowing or wisdom just arises in you. You're carrying it in your DNA, and we've forgotten it. But with all of the women gathering again like this and bringing all these little pieces back together to the whole, it is healing and it's empowering. And so we did that, and we had some beautiful, beautiful singers there that were singing sacred songs, and songs about wind, and songs about love, and songs about, earth and water, and just amazingly beautiful, beautiful words. So that was very touching. There were healing circles there. There were places of forgiveness where they had huge circles with paper on them, and you could just write anything that you wanted to be forgiven for, and anything that, your hopes or desires. There were stations for that. There were stations for love. It was just a very different kind of a day. It was, by the end, everybody was hugging. Everybody, wanted to stay in touch. And it felt very, very powerful. The dancing on the earth and the drumming of the drums, and it sounded like the mother's heartbeat, and looking out onto the water there, and realizing that water is life, and that all life begins in water, and as women we understand that, carrying our babies in the water, and there's just so much of a connection between the feminine and the water. So it's a new time for the world, and I think the transition period from the masculine to the feminine, at first I thought this was going to be a difficult thing, but the more I see it transpiring, I'm kind of realizing that it's such a natural progression that I don't think it's going to be difficult.
What I do want to ask you about, I know that men sometimes are threatened because it's not well known, I don't think, that men have both masculine and feminine energy. So Can you comment about that, maybe? What's your opinion?
Well, the thing that I want to say about this time in our history where we're bringing in the feminine, I don't want people to be confused about the 60s and the 70s when we had that feminist movement. That was completely different than what's happening now. The feminist movement that I lived through was more about telling women that you could be a man, that you could join the army, that you could go out and work, that you're strong as, and that, that was, to me, a misconception, because that really is not what this movement about. That movement was more about, convincing women to get out in the workforce so that the government could have double taxes on every family. This movement is completely different. This is, as women, we've always known that we've had a masculine side to us too. We've had a warrior side. We've had the masculine energy in us, and just like the men, they have masculine energy, but they also have, feminine energy. Men want to be loved. They want to love. They want to raise their family and love their children and enjoy nature. And so when you think of feminine, it's not, people get confused where men have to be women or women have to be men. It has nothing to do with that. It's the energy. It's the masculine energy. All women need that. We need that part of us where we can protect our children, where we can be strong and all of that. And the men need the feminine energy. So the words have kind of been corrupted, I think, over time. But when you're speaking about feminine and masculine, we're speaking about the energies now. And it's a balance. And we're all coming into balance now, where, I've had the discussion with men saying, I feel sorry for men. They've had a long time of having to be the ones to go to war, the ones that had to be so strong, don't cry, be a man, all of these things that we're told. And, I gave birth to a baby boy, and, he was just as beautiful and loving and kind as my daughters. But, over time I would see the differences, don't cry, be a man, go out there, be tough, toughen up, be the best on your sports team, just, it was a different messaging. I tried not to do that, but that's what the world does. And now I think with the feminine coming back more in control, the women are going to be able to love the men into relaxation again, where it's okay for men to go out and smell flowers and enjoy the softer side of things and still be a true man. And we need the men to still keep that toughness, because the way that things are changing now, women are going to be stepping up. Women are going to be gathering together and using their strength to change the way these systems work in our country. Our world is broken. Women need to get together and figure out how to nurture and heal these things. And we need the men to be strong protectors. It's gather around the women and let them do the work that needs to be done to heal the planet. So it's a balance.
Well said.
Hey, Catherine, you jump in and talk a little bit about the fact that this was, in a way, prophesized by the Mayan calendar and Vedas, that 2012 was going to be the beginning of a golden age of 10,000 years like no other, right?
Well, the golden age actually is prophesied, I guess you could call it, it's prophesied, as the age of Aquarius, but in the Mayan cosmology, it's the fifth world. We're entering the fifth world, and we're just at the beginning of the fifth world. But there's an elder who's been coming up here for years. His name is Miguel Shaquin, and he is the one who informed us up here that in the fifth world, the women will have to step up our leadership. And it feels right. It's the right time. We are hardwired, I believe, to keep whatever is alive. We want to keep it living. Don't let anything, happen to it. It doesn't care if it's the stray kitten, it's the house plant that's altered. And so we get into a dialogue without words through empathy. And that's how we feel into what that other being needs from us. And that comes actually as part of the function of having babies who cannot communicate with us verbally. And so we're constantly trying to figure out, oh, you're hungry, you're wet, you're teething, you don't feel well. We have to do all this without words. And that's part of what develops our sense of empathy, where we've just come to the rescue of anything that is alive. And, I just want to say that I think one of the features when the masculine and feminine come into balance is that all beings will have their own sovereignty that is respected. So we will not be the chattel and the, property of anyone. Nobody will be. That sovereignty of each being will be respected and held in regard.
We will no longer be slaves, right? Shelley, what do you got to say about this?
Well, Catherine mentioned word, and in the quantum way of looking at things. We could think of word as being DNA, and this is a natural, organic experience that's sweeping the planet. It's our DNA has this God spark that is just responding to the light that's touching the earth, those packets of information. And it's not just North America. For example, there's been thousands of Palestinian and Israeli women marching for weeks. I think they went 2 weeks marching for peace. They're singing, they're dancing, they're loving everybody that they see. This isn't just to sweep stuff under the carpet, but this is our genuine natural expression that is healing the planet, and it is what is required at this time. This is, you know, it's the end of an old cycle, it's the beginning of a new cycle. We're just in tune with nature, and that's what women are really good at. We're in tune with nature. We are nature. We are Mother Earth.
Indeed.
We can express the flower of life just by being, just naturally. We don't need to study to know what to do.
That's true. Mary Beth, are you going back to North Dakota?
I really feel as though I am being called back to North Dakota. I think maybe next week I might head back, but I'll go back with a different mission this time. Last time I didn't know really what to do,
Right.
but when we got there, Sharon and I, and then you know, Jackie came out I think 10 days after we had gotten there. But when we got there, you know, I looking back, it was so odd how we just, you know, went to the front line and did all of this stuff and, you know, without any guidance. And it wasn't until we were out there several times that we found out that you were not supposed to go out there without frontline training. And to tell you the truth, Sharon and I both said if we had had the frontline training, we probably would not have gone out because we probably would have gone into a little bit of fear. So I think we were guided not to. And we just went out there kind of pure-hearted, and we made, you know, a lot of things happen, I believe. But this time, I'm really compelled to go out more as a, you know, a mission like of grandmothers. I would love to gather grandmothers together and to go out there for healing and to have the grandmothers really address some of these people that are so misguided in what they're doing. Such as, you know, talking to the governor of North Dakota and the sheriff of Morton County, and just some of these people that are making horrendous decisions out of fear. I believe they're making them out of fear. And they're making them out of, some of them out of greed because they're heavily invested in this pipeline. But some of them are doing this because, you know, they're fearful of losing their jobs and their income and all of that. And I just think that it's time for the grandmothers to speak. I think it's time for us to go out there and add some sanity to this horrible situation that's happening. And it's also time, you know, to protect the water. It's the females that are here to protect the water. The feminine energy is here to protect the water. So I'm thinking about it now, what I would do, you know, when I go out there. And I'm hoping that, you know, lots of other women will choose to join me and go and really, you know, bring some of the change that is desperately needed to that situation.
Mary Beth, what you were speaking of earlier, having the male and female in everybody, whether we're predominantly expressing female with an inner male or vice versa, what you're describing there was your own inner male, your action responding to that intuitive compulsion that I need to be there. You heard that intuitive message and your own inner masculine energy packed the car and away you went. You know, Sharon's inner masculine energy dialed the phone to say, hey, I'm coming with you. Jackie too, right? So just to really empower the women to let your own inner masculine energy be your strong legs to carry out this mission. We get it. We can hear the intuitive message, but we need some follow through. you know, and to not wait for permission. You have permission now. It's time to really move forward with this.
I agree. And the word feminine is going to be something that we're going to have to work with too, because a lot of people, when you say feminine, they think, you know, little bows and frilly dresses and sitting very cute and quiet in a corner. Well, that's not what feminine means. Feminine to me means that you use your God-given intuition, your wisdom, your knowledge, your compassion, your love, your nurturing, your kindness, your empathy. That to me is the feminine side of all of us. But I agree, we can never, ever go out of balance and be all one or all the other. And even in North Dakota, when we were staying with the Lakota, they would call Sharon and me, we were the warrior women. And every time we would come back, they'd be like, oh, thank God our warrior women are back. And I took that, like you're saying, that was just my masculine energy, but I would never go out there and war with them. But the warrior part of me sees that something is so out of balance and that you need to bring your strength to it to help to put it back in balance again. So to me, that's what a warrior woman is. You know, you're strong enough to pick yourself up and go and do it, but you do it out of love and compassion.
I think you should be on the lines once in a while to hold the space of the love. I'm sure they have people who do that, but I think women should be there. It's a very calming effect, don't you think? I don't know how many women were there out there on the front lines. There were a lot of women there, and it really was. Of course, there was many more men, but there were a lot of women there, and there were a lot of young women too. A lot of young white women, which I was so proud of them. I would tell them all the time. I was just so proud of them. And the girl that was staying at our camp, her name was Danielle, and she was a young girl and in her probably early 20s, I would imagine. And she had heard about it, and she went on to the Standing Rock site, and somebody was offering rides from California. And so she just, you know, said, I need to go. And she came, and we got to be very friendly with her. And she decided that she just left everything behind. She called, she quit her job. She's staying there to stand with the people through this brutal winter. And I said, Danielle, you know, why are you doing this? And she said, I don't know. She's like, it's just something inside of me. I know I need to do this. And I said, good. Your feminine divine wisdom is coming back to you, and you're following it. And I said, I believe that's how most of us are going to navigate through this new time. We'll just, you'll get that nudge. You'll have that intuition, and instead of like poo-pooing it or listening to everybody else trying to talk you out of it, you'll just follow that knowing. And I think that's how we were meant to live. Well, I
to
think
be happy and productive.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that's how we feel happy and productive, is by following those nudges that we get.
One of the things that grandmothers can do, I think, is very important, because grandmothers can speak intergenerationally and discuss what things we do that have value in our society, like ceremony, like dance, like song, like stuff like that. They can also discuss the things that go on in our society that aren't so smart, like early marriage and teen pregnancy and heroin addiction and stuff like that. So I think the whole idea of the grandmothers has tremendous value, because you have to be a grandmother to have the wisdom to speak to all generations. That's my belief.
And I think the word grandmother is soothing to a lot of people. You can talk to a grandmother, and grandmothers try not to judge so much. If you get hurt, a grandmother, you go sit on their lap and they'll take care of you. I mean, even men talk lovingly and so fondly of their grandmothers. There's just something about going through the fire. We've gone through the problems with our childhood and our teenage years, and then we've given birth, and we've learned how to love these little tiny beings up through adulthood. And then, if you're fortunate, you get the grandchildren to come along, and that's more love that you get to pour out. And by that point, most of us have worked through a lot of our traumas or a lot of our, hurts through our life. And now we're focused on trying to, help people get through what we've been through, and tell them everything will be all right. Everything's a lesson, you can forgive anybody, and I think these are the lessons that need to be brought to North Dakota. The people out there have so much fear, the farmers, the locals. And I think as grandmothers, I would like to talk with them too and say, use your divine power. Don't sit in your house in fear and listen to, this propaganda. Come on out. Come out with your brothers and sisters. See what's really happening. Experience it.
Doors. What if you went out and knocked on doors in the town?
Yeah, that was my plan. Yeah. I told Sharon that today. My plan is to drive up to the door and knock on the door and just say, could I hear your side of the story?
Because, you have to engage these people or be lied to. And grandmothers could go to the door and knock on it and not be threatening.
Right.
Right.
It's all about healing.
What if you could somehow engage because these ranchers have grandmas, they have grandmothers, and you get all the grandmothers, the First Nations grandmothers, the allies grandmothers, and to talk with the rancher grandmothers.
Mm-hmm.
Could that be amazing or what?
It would be very healing. Be very healing. Yeah.
Well, this is the time of healing for our planet. There is another prophecy that goes back 40,000 years that spoke about this, and it speaks to both grandmothers and the grandfathers. And basically, it was saying so it was the grandmother wakes up the grandfather, and the grandfather is to wake up the firebird, and we know what that is. That's the phoenix. And the firebird comes out from under the waters of life and reignites the circle of life, The God spark puts everything back into balance. So I think we're right on schedule. No, I don't. I think we're like 30 years behind. But, we can catch up.
I thought you were going to say we were ahead of schedule.
No. We are so not ahead, but we can catch up.
We can catch up. Yeah, I feel it's happening very quickly, too. I see changes happening in women very quickly. Just the discussions that we're having, and women are not afraid anymore to step up and speak out. I mean, some are, but I think, there's a lot of trailblazers out there. I was a quiet person, and now, just by having this knowledge that it is time, and you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for Mother Earth. You're doing it for all future generations. And I often think, that I'm doing it because when I pass and I can look back, I want to know that I used my life. I don't want to look back with all the would-haves and could-haves and should-haves and, all the missed opportunities. I want to look back and say, well, it was there and I did it, and what do you have to lose? And fear is just something that's been programmed into us from the time we were little. You're not born into the world as a fearful being. The fears are programmed into us. So we have to take the time to deprogram ourselves.
That's right. We just got to shake it off. Let it go.
Did you, Mary Beth, by any chance get an opportunity to ask Shailene Woodley what drew her there? She's a very young woman.
What? I missed what you said.
What drew her there?
Oh yeah, she's an activist soul. I mean, she is so, I watched an interview with her quite a while ago before I really knew who she was, and she is so grounded. And I remember in this interview, she said that she goes out into Central Park in New York City and forages. She loves to forage for mushrooms and any kind of food, and she's just so connected. And it was her mother and her grandmother that kept her so connected. So I wasn't surprised at all to hear that she was there. And when I met her, she was just lovely, absolutely lovely. She was tired from what she had just been through, but I just told her that I was just so happy that she was such a brave young woman. And she had said that her grandma was going to be coming out. So I was, had this idea that I would like to try to get in touch with her and talk with her grandmother and see if we can't, just get grandmothers from everywhere, every walk of life, every part of the world to come and be together, because together I think that the strength would be phenomenal, and the ideas and the wisdom that would come if we were all just together sharing. I think we would figure out how to heal this and get beyond this.
And the reason we would figure that out is because that's our natural state. We are one. We are a collective family. The Ojibwe have a prayer. It's really beautiful, but it speaks about how it was only humanity that fell off the sacred way. It's only humanity.
Right.
And that it comes down to love and compassion. Well, compassion and bliss. Compassion. That's all it takes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel very, very, very positive that, this is all going to be behind us one day soon, and that we're all going to be on the road to healing together. And that, not to say that these large corporations are just going to fade away instantly, but I believe that there's going to be such a push to support the new conscious businesses and corporations that are coming out, that the old ones will just die their natural death, and we won't have to do much. They'll just, die away naturally, and we'll be so busy creating the new that we won't even notice that they're dying off. Right now, they're just in fear, just like there's a lot of fear on the planet right now. These large corporations are in fear. They see what's changing right in front of them. They see the mood of the people changing. They know what's happening. So all that we're seeing here, this aggression, this anger, it's because they're in fear. And they'll have to go through that.
Their ways are changing. I mean, let's face it, oil is over. So we have the biggest companies in the world who have for quite a few years they've tried to diversify, but they're trying to diversify without being public about why they're trying to diversify. And they're putting the fear of God into people whose lives and jobs depend on oil. And it's over. It's done. We have to act now. We have a planet that has a little problem, and if we get to work and do the things that have to be done, but it's very difficult to change an economy that's been based on oil and petrodollars and fiat money, and every one of those people know the deal is over. They all know it. The top knows it. The bottom doesn't, because the top's afraid to talk because they're afraid to get tarred and feathered and run out of town, right? But the deal's over. It's a happening that's happened. So in a way, we're not behind. I think where we might be behind is that it has not become general knowledge to people. Most people do their lives. Their kids go to school, and you pick them up and you go to their ball game, and I'm making an appointment with one of my clients, and we've changed it 3 times because she found out that her granddaughter was playing ball at 5 o'clock rather than 3:30. So grandmothers are active, and grandmothers are out there, and what's interesting is they're no longer sort of sitting at home, cook the turkey dinner kind of grandmom. They're out in public. They have retirement funds. They were employed. They know what's going on in the world. So in a sense, we've turned loose a whole different kind of grandmother. One that not only has experienced children and grandchildren, but has also experienced being employed quite successfully, have some retirement plans, have life experience. And this, really, when has that happened before? Aren't we just now moving into that, maybe?
I don't know. I think that we were rather derailed, but nonetheless, what we can get back to is teaching our children to respect humanity instead of respecting flags and boundaries. We can bring it back to respecting the collective, the love, the family.
And it goes back, I want to go back to the fear again. A lot of people that are working in these industries with these fossil fuels are making good money, and they've been there a long time, and they don't see an out because, you know, it's not shown to them. And one of our biggest problems is our media, again, you know, not putting out the truth. But in reality, if we could get these companies to get going with building wind and solar, I mean, you know, retrofitting all of the buildings and building the turbines and building all the parts for the solar and all, there would be such an abundance of jobs, but it's not put out that way. It's put out that solar and wind will take years and it's in its infancy and blah, 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 and it just isn't true. And so, you know, one of our biggest hurdles is getting truth out into the media and letting people really know what's going on this planet. Because if you're not looking at alternative news, you have no clue. You're in fear. Oh my God, if the oil industry goes down, what are we going to do?
Well, you know, look at everything. Here we have the whole situation in the Middle East that's been going on for many, many years, since World War II. And our government is doing the same thing that the governor of North Dakota is doing.
Absolutely.
Our is protecting American oil companies.
Right.
When they try to build a pipeline through these countries, our government is protecting them. The first thing in there is our guns, and then the central bankers go in, and then the big oil companies go in, and it's all the same thing over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Standing Rock may be a stand.
Oh, it is.
Thousands of people should go there.
Mm-hmm.
I
would
think
really
every
love to
citizen should go.
Yeah, wouldn't it be sweet, a sweet little statement if we could have 5,000 grandmothers? That's, in the greater scheme of things, that's not very many people.
No, that's not very many people.
5,000, we could easily rally 5,000 grandmothers, not activists, 5,000 grandmothers. You know what? Gloria Steinem wrote this a while ago. I'll read it to you. So she says, women may be the one group that grows more radical with age. One day, an army of gray-haired women may quietly take over the earth.
Go, Gloria.
Yes.
I don't believe that.
We could rewrite that little nursery rhyme. You know, girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice, and women are made of tornadoes, volcanoes, earthquakes, and compassion.
Yeah, and what are we going to say about grandmothers?
Look out! Don't make me call grandmother. Don't make me call grandmother.
I think that should be our goal. I think we should start a campaign. We should pick a date, you know, a date maybe 4 weeks down the line, or give people a chance. And we should just say that we are gathering, the gathering of grandmothers. And, you know, we, from going out there, we have connections with many of the indigenous tribes now with their elder women, and they now want to speak out. They want to get involved. So this would be the perfect time to do this. So let's make it a goal.
Let's make it happen.
Great idea. Okay, guys. Well, I think we've probably done our time. So I just say thank you to all of you. And I think watch out. The world is it's going to meet the grandmothers. That's what we can say. The grandmothers are coming.
Grandmothers of Gaia.
Yeah, grandmothers of Gaia. We're coming to fix her. Yep.
Thank you. See you guys next week.